Hello everyone, I'm Forrest McFreelava, and this is Speedplay Italy and Hearts of Iron 3 number 15. We left off making great gains in the Ukraine, cleaning out a bit of the pocket, and losing some land in the Far East, but that doesn't really matter all that much. We did lose the one mechanized unit that was there. We are close to destroying that pocket, which is great. There is a very small number of Soviet forces. Here we see the Germans are doing fairly well, and hopefully we'll be able to maintain that. Persia lost a lot of land. The Americans are just sweeping through India, but that's what they've always been doing. We're going to try to evacuate all of our remaining suppression forces, clean out those pockets, and just defend most of the front. Right here we'll defend. The main thing we're going to do, though, is launch a massive armored attack, destroy any pocketed Soviet forces, and just roll through the center now that our lines are combined. So with that all said and done, we go ahead and attack. We are facing some negative battles, and the Far East is kind of collapsing. Everywhere else, though, we're doing fine. And we're just going to move our headquarters up because our armies are just terribly far away from command. And other than that, we're doing alright. So we're just going to gun it forward, destroy whatever forces we can, and generally just try to maintain our lines in a way that we won't lose any troops. As has been the case for quite a while, there are going to be a lot of battles occurring basically everywhere, and there's not really anything we can do about that other than just move away from battlefields where we're losing, try to encircle the Soviet forces so that we'll win the battles we choose to fight. And since all of our units, or at least the vast majority of them, are mechanized or armored, we'll be able to hopefully surround a decent number of Soviet forces, much like those in that city and this armored unit down here. And hopefully with just our rapid forces be able to do a lot of damage to the Soviet units that actually go a little bit too boldly towards us. The Americans are fighting us in India, which is a problem. We start transferring our navy over to rescue those men. Here you'll see another encirclement attempt is being made fairly successfully, and we're going to try to just destroy those Soviet forces. More or less, though, everywhere we're going, we're doing well. And there is a massive gap in the Soviet lines, where there's very few soldiers. There is also a gap in our lines on the Far East, and the Soviets will probably take advantage of that, but we'll deal with that when the time comes. You'll notice they have pulled back a lot of their forces from the Far West, probably to fight the Germans. And the main thing that we're dealing with is just a pretty terrible supply throughput issue. It doesn't affect our entire army, but it does affect large portions of it. These forces are going to try to press forward where they can, and we're going to keep retreating from the Americans in India, hopefully getting our forces out and saving them. These forces are all going to just charge forward into the gaps between the Soviet lines, hopefully trapping any enemy units that they can, and from there we'll just encircle and destroy them. You'll see we're already making pretty decent progress with that. And yeah, so we've really achieved at least a decent portion of our objectives already, so we may go ahead and add another set of objectives just to give our army something to do. This is the first time we've changed the battlefield objectives mid-game or mid-session, so we're going to try to wheel around, maybe deal with some Soviet forces over here. I'm not sure what they've got. Moscow is up top, so we might make a drive towards that. Maybe not right now, but eventually. And really, though, the main thing is going to be to just hold off the Soviet forces and try to wheel around. You'll notice we have a tremendous problem with our really just command and control. Most, if not all, of the frontline troops are too far away from their command structure to actually get orders in a timely manner. And that's probably a pretty significant problem, to be honest. Ultimately, though, our forces are just going to keep pressing forward wherever possible. If we hit too much Soviet resistance, as always, we'll just wheel back away from them. Our biggest strength is our mobility, and we're going to use that to the height of our advantage. We are trying to defend the river off to the east and probably not press forward and attack the Soviets in that area for at least a decent while. Hopefully we'll be able to maintain that. We are pressing into some Soviet cities, which is pretty good. Operation Black Ice called for a combined move. Basically, we're following Operation Black Ice from way back when, just not at all in the way that I had anticipated. And And we are kind of getting close to winter, which is a little worrying. Hopefully we'll be able to maintain everything. One of our units did get encircled. Hopefully we'll be able to free them. And we are rushing troops to the east. It looks as though we will be able to rescue those soldiers, and we did remove the encirclement. So that's great. There is an enemy armored unit we might be able to encircle. And that unit is now safe. Right here we are fighting some battles. Overall, though, it's going straightforward and fairly well. We've surrounded one of the Soviet armored units, and we'll hopefully destroy that. Every armored unit we destroy is something like 40 industrial capacity to produce. So, 40 industrial capacity in at least 4 months, I would say. Which is great, because every time we destroy one, we're just doing terrible damage to the Soviets, and that's really just fantastic. We managed to win a battle in Bombay, so we'll try to retreat those forces out. That Soviet pocketed group keeps moving around, and we're going to add another war goal against the Soviets. I believe we go for the Baltic states. Just because why not? It would look terrible if we annexed Western Russia and didn't get the Baltic states. Next we'll have to go after the Soviet claims on Finland. Ultimately, though, we're not really going to have to worry about defeating the Soviet Union before we have time to add all our war goals, because I, quite frankly, can't imagine this war is going to be over fairly quickly. We have taken over a vast expanse of territory from the Soviet Union, though, don't get me wrong, and we're just pressing forward. Still, our troops are getting a lot of supply issues, which is kind of a problem because the area where we're getting all these supply issues is also the only area that doesn't really have very many Soviet troops. So that's unfortunate. We are pressing forward up into Belarus and just trying to defend our lines on the east, as the Soviets are coming in a lot more powerfully than we had anticipated. Luckily, though, they are giving way in the center and on the west, which will probably lead to a new revitalized German advance, which is good. It indicates that we're doing a lot of damage to the Soviet forces. Ultimately, I would still prefer it if the Germans just kind of were not really defeated, because we do want to fight them later. It's still not quite winter. We have achieved most of our objectives. Let's see, the front line has moved forward quite a bit in the center. It looks as though, just to confirm, the Germans are making some progress. So we have done a lot of good, arguably. We're going to try to encircle this one Soviet armored unit. Hopefully we'll succeed in that. We've already destroyed the other one. And if we can pull that off, that will just be great. We'll bring some reinforcements to win that battle. We have encircled that armored unit, so we are encircling a lot of Soviet armor, which is very good news, and it'll really help us to just maintain our position and hopefully press even further relatively quickly. We're going to get some reinforcements up. We managed to succeed with that. And supply issues are a main concern. We did destroy that armored unit, though, which is fantastic. Some of our units have gone up a little bit too far, so we'll probably have to fall back to just maintain a defensive location. You'll see there are a lot of Soviet forces building up on the east, but I don't really think they're much of a threat. And we can still press through the center if we ever get supplies, which is kind of a big if, as much as I hate to admit it. Overall, though, we are doing good work against these Soviet forces, encircling quite a few. They aren't the massive encirclements that we had been getting earlier on, but they're still moderate to mid-level encirclements, and that's definitely worth something. Not as much, but still something. And with all of our forces more or less moving forward, we do get a rebellion. We're probably only going to be able to save the 2 suppression units we already picked up. Looks like these Soviet forces are going to try to all evacuate. We're going to try to cut them off and really weaken their east, or I guess it would be the western front for them, but the eastern flank of our front. And it looks as though we may be able to cut them off. We are driving forward to try to cut off some of these Soviet forces and encircle them. We are losing some battles in the south, but that isn't too much of a concern. And it looks as though we did manage to just destroy those Soviet forces, which is great. There are some forces here that we can hopefully surround and destroy. And we are losing the battles in the east. Luckily, we should have more forces there soon. That unit ended up running out of supplies behind enemy lines, which is a terrible problem, and how another group was destroyed. And the Americans are making progress against Japan at an alarming rate. Overall, though, our forces are gunning it forward. We are probably near where we're going to end. The Germans are actually making progress all across their lines now, and we're driving deep into the heart of the Soviet Union. Potentially, next time around, we may make it to Moscow, although the winter will set in force soon. Persia even made gains. The Japanese not so much. In fact, the Japanese are losing everywhere, and the African militia known as the United Kingdom has made progress against us as well. And really, we achieved all of our original objectives, which is pretty great. We have a lot of new armored units coming online soon, although that would probably just exacerbate our current supply issue. When we come back, we're going to see what damage we can do to the Soviet armies and maybe take Moscow. Thank you very much for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. Have a great day.